last time I did a stream lead on the Philippines is when the hurricane hit there. And then I did some subsequent ones on Malaysia. We'll bring that immediately in, the Philippines. Hold on a second here. Just let me scan through the energies here, the Philippines. 1397, 4 epochs. The Philippines is broken up into a series of islands. Each island has its own locus reality. And when I look at the membrane of each locus reality and how each and every part is put together, there is a disconnection amongst the main islands, the communication islands. There's a massive attempt to reintegrate the Vatican sacred geometry in all throughout that area. And that is what is beginning to show in the beginning of the stream read here. So let me see. We're on Manila. We got ships coming in. We got massive freighters. We got 2 storms to the south. What I'm doing is now reading the potential here, and I'm backing out. Philippines, Malaysia, 3 crossover timelines. So there is a potential over the city of Manila where the 3 sacred geometry grids are overlying. You have the Vatican, you have the Muslim expression, and then you have what essentially is the New Age movement that's trying to make an island hold there. Each of these 3 time streams are trying to take over DNA lineages in and around the Manila area. And what it means is taking over DNA lineages, more memories from somebody else's lifetime suddenly flood into your body, and your body has to process those, and then your brain and heart must make a determination if those are your real memories or if those are just memories the system has given you. And if you consent to those memories, it'll be very, very difficult for you to see as new belief systems start coming through to you as systems begin integrating soul shards into those different DNA lineages. This is the time where true propaganda can hijack a lineage into a belief system of negativity or a belief system of positivity or neutrality or a whole new different expression. There is a tremendous failure inside the government there. Like many other countries, they're holding on tooth and nail to cover up some massive, massive financial scams that have gone and centered in the Philippines. Some of these financial scams got so rampant, many of the Eastern European mafia families had gotten involved in these scams and were scammed themselves by them, and the Filipino government didn't shut down these organizations. They let them brew basically these kid farms where they're on the internet running these professional scams. And that is a major, major piece of ancestral karma the entire Philippine network is dealing with. Part of the degradation of that entire islands was to bring the black market of all oceans there, because it is a massive sacred environment. It is what should have been the sacred lands of Lemuria, is what survived there. There's technology all over the place there. Underneath the waters of the islands, if the waters recede little less than 70 or 100 feet, there would be massive temples and underground temples and tombs that would be available to be seen all throughout those islands, including Malaysia and Bali and into the Australian areas. That would have been their highest parts of their mountains and their sacred places in those Philippines. It would have been called Rak-Chia-Toy in the Lemurian tongue. Let's see, what else do I got here? That's not going to make sense. So when I look at the country of the Philippines, I look at its political structure, I look at its government energy structure. It's 3 separate debts the sacred geometry system is trying to create, and then the people that are total potential of the people that are considered part of its citizenry battery energy, which they can call on, and the citizen people have no more energy to give. This means they're going to be doing the blood from the stone scenario, where they're going to attempt to do mediocre to higher level kundalini feedings, which will force people back into seizure sleep. What seizure sleep is, their awakening body suddenly goes into a seizure and falls back to sleep for several days, several hours, several minutes, or several years, depending on the level of the seizure. And this is because the heart is rapidly disconnected from the sacrum. At the same time, there's scalar weapons that are disturbing the solar plexus from the capability of making a nervous system that has the right part of your body language and soul language behind the body language. So that's an example of what's going on in the Philippines. I can go deeper if there's some specific questions.
Brisbane from
Sacred geometry, it's directly linked to the Vatican, same link in Malaysia and the Philippines. Keep going. Auckland, Falls Church, Quake Line, separate timeline, Bush 2, Clone 4. All right, I'll push it a little bit. What I'm doing here is trying to look at how Auckland, New Zealand, which is separate of the sacred geometry system of Australia, though it is linked through these spiritual contracts to be part of the court system there. Though the court system over there does not have the same ability to put psychic debt on its people. Now, Falls Church was an attempt to create a way of creating psychic debt on the people. It didn't work. There was a scenario where a timeline incursion was done to create a specific earthquake in that specific place on another timeline. And what they were going to try to do is grab all the people that experienced the destruction and force those soul shards into the people on this final graduation timeline in attempts to mass control that land, because there's a whole bunch of womb chakras that are in there. There's a cluster of 12 womb chakras all throughout New Zealand. And Auckland is a very key sacred space in which natural order shamans connected to the land, or those connected to natural order technology, can trigger a pretty big surge in the earth menstrual field, which could and eventually pop the cork that is Syria. If Syria finishes its full awakening and the cork is popped above the womb chakra over there, there'll be all the other womb chakras will open very fast, but Auckland, New Zealand is number 2. Now, because it's number 2, and number 2 doesn't work unless number 1 works, unless you have a secondary layover sacred geometry system, which is what they're doing now. There's been a negative, we'll just call them dimensional force, that has attempted to take over the land through military, through agriculture, and attempt to change the surface locus reality. At the same time, bring in other locus reality things into this environment to make sure it stays very haunted. So any of those people there that are natural ghost hunters or psychics will have a very, very difficult time being in that area unless they're in ancestral resolve, meaning they are karmic neutral beings, but still allow for karmic resolution for those around them, and they aid those in karmic resolution and karmic retribution. More about Auckland, New Zealand, so that means it's timeline 2, Bush Clone 4. Bush Clone, I rarely get into Bush clones or cloning. It's when they clone someone because they made a different choice in a timeline, and they needed to erase that part of that light body frequency, so the light body never actually remembers what it did unless it can go back to the Akashic record and look what it did. So clone number 4, that means Bush 2 made 4 separate decisions that altered his dimensional timelines, which mean he could not succeed as a president. He did something that was bad. So the 4th clone is what's going on with Auckland, New Zealand, so that is directly related to DHS, their own version of Homeland Security. So there's probably some type of secret police force being formed in and around the Auckland, New Zealand area. And if you look for the really obvious signs of Agenda 21 at the United Nations, they boldly printed everywhere, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about, Auckland, New Zealand.